This content is brought to you by Westlund Incorporated, helping you create a vision for your life. I believe this episode is really going to encourage you today, especially if you know you need to make some changes in your life. What do you do when you get to that fork in the road and you feel that tug to do something different? Or you know you've been putting off exploring something that would really, really excite you and fill your cup. What's stopping you from taking that step? I can recall the first time in my career when I felt that pull for something more. At the time, I was leading a really large team in a performing arts venue. And I have to say, I absolutely loved my job. And the crazy part about it is one day I woke up and I didn't love it anymore. It was like something unexpected showed up and I wasn't sure what quite happened. But I had spent so many years in that role and in that career path that I'd gotten to a place where I had done all I had set out to do, and there was just no more challenge for me. And I was settling into something quite comfortable. I had arrived. The problem with arriving is that growth stops. And it took me a solid year of just wrestling with my emotions before the inevitable happened, and I lost my job. The job I loved, but also the job that just didn't fit anymore. And what was so devastating at the time turned out to be one of the absolute greatest gifts I could have been given. Because on the other side of that journey was me uncovering gifts and talents I never knew I had. They were lying dormant until that big shakeup happened. I believe we all have something we are uniquely wired to do. And all those skills and knowledge we've come across and gifts and talents should be leading us somewhere purposeful. A while ago, I had a very rich conversation with a friend, Val Lieske. She is a writer, performer, director, educator, and founder of a theater company called Fire Exit Theater. It's so unique amongst other theater companies, and Val has chosen to really embrace that uniqueness. And she's bravely showing up, trailblazing some really new things. Fire Exit is a nonprofit, semi-professional theater company, and they aim to artistically explore the world through a lens of faith. In her 3 words, their mandate is hope, challenge, and change. I'm going to share a couple of really great clips of our conversation, and Val shares how she started something new and how it unexpectedly grew. In her words, the road hasn't been easy, but I'm going to say nothing worthwhile ever is. Val also shares a very personal experience of going to the desert more recently after she left her teaching gig and went all in. So listen in, you'll be so encouraged. You have been on a bit of a wild ride, and I have to say I've been watching a little bit from the sidelines. I first heard about you shortly after you started your theater company. I think it was 21 years ago now.
Wow.
And I also worked in the theater business, so I feel a little bit connected to you in that way as well. And a fun fact that I want to share is that I used to manage the theater where your production started so many years ago. So this is really a full circle moment, even selfishly for me. So I've been admiring your journey and all that you've accomplished. And where I want to start in this conversation is, I think it would be great if you could take us back 21 years and tell us how Fire Exit Theater was born. Like, what made you want to start this theater company?
Well, first of all, if you have any connections left at that theater, I could discount because the cost of that theater, of which we are still at, it's about triple.
We'll see what we can do.
And when we started, that particular venue was full of all of these like little companies, community theaters, and all of that. And we're sort of like the last one standing. So,
something to be said about that.
It is a difficult. It's just difficult to be nonprofit. First of all, it's difficult to be in the arts. It's difficult to sort of find the niche that we have found and to survive this long. And it really, again, when this started, I don't think I was on staff yet, but I was just a layperson at my church, which was a large church that was starting to get a little more creative and had asked me to sort of, start a little drama troupe. And I always say that a huge part of the inspiration for starting Fire Exit was just bad church drama, like just bad. That's we've been there. I feel your
Yeah.
pain. At that point, I was just sitting in the pew watching the bad skits. I didn't actually know how to fix them at that point. I wasn't trained, but I knew there must be a better way to do this. And a friend of mine was having the same experience at his church. Uh, and sort of the two of us were like, wouldn't that be interesting if we could tell stories out outside of the church in a neutral space? I don't want to be in the church basement or even the community hall. I want to be in an actual theater downtown Calgary. And I want to tell stories that um, respectfully I can't tell at my church. Um, the two of us were just reading like really great scripts that were thoughtful and engaging and necessary, I felt. But the problem was they had the word damn in it. And so I couldn't do it at my church. But they also had the
Right.
word God in it. And so Theater Calgary's not going to do it. And
Mm.
so these stories that are just going to fall into the cracks of not being able to find a home in either place. And at this point, there was maybe two or three other sort of professional, quote unquote, faith-based companies in Canada. And so they were doing a little bit of that work, but there was certainly nothing around here where I'm from. And so, yeah, we just thought, okay, this is my strategy. How hard can that be? I say. So
Famous last words, yes.
such words. I'm like, and I kid you not, we're gonna do it for 1 year. We'll see. We'll find a venue. I'm sure people aren't gonna come, but it'll be fun. I will die and say I had a theater company for a year. That was super cool. Like that's a bucket list thing. Like, at the end of the year, first of all, people came, which I was like, that's weird. Okay, so we didn't actually
Yeah.
have a bank account for the first year because I was like, okay. People came. And then after the first year, the gentleman I sort of started this with, he actually got a job out of town. And so I was like, great, well, let's shut her down. That was great. We had this little thing for a year.
Fun ride.
Then I had a bunch of people say, like, what do you do next year? I was like, what do you mean? Like, there's no next year. Like,
Right. This was done now.
this is done. Wasn't that fun? And yeah, here we are going into our 22nd season of continuing to find stories that I think are falling in the middle somewhere. It has certainly morphed into something much bigger and different than I certainly imagined back then.
Yeah.
Um,
And we're going to talk a little bit about that journey and what that was like. But, as you're talking, I'm just seeing a vision was born 21 years ago. And
mm,
you actually, without even really knowing it, you had this idea that was revolutionary and you just took a step out and you did it and you made it happen and thought it was going to be for a year. But it's amazing how sometimes our plans just our plans are just a thought, but what the bigger picture is looks very, very different. So your vision is still living today, and it's just amazing what you've accomplished so far. And I have to ask you, so your message through Fire Exit Theater, what
mm.
kind of message are you really giving a voice to when you think about what you're doing?
Yeah, again, I think at the beginning it was just this idea of finding interesting work that, again, I couldn't do here and I couldn't do there, and so it's going to fall in between. I think
Hmm.
uh, I think it's certainly grown and morphed throughout the years. I think that our and part of that is from our audience, which has also grown and changed. Um, we've had three words from the very beginning that have not deviated. They have not changed. Hope, challenge, change. That is how I choose every play. It's how I choose people I want to work with, how we look at our budget. Those are our guiding words that
Mm.
our stories will never leave you hopeless. They may not be a happy ending in a traditional sense of the word, the happy ending hallmark, but they will not leave you without hope. There's a sliver, a small, light in the darkness, because I'm really motivated by challenging people to change. People won't change unless they're challenged, and they also won't change if there's no hope. what's the point? Why would
Yeah.
I try to fix this thing if you've presented something hopeless, which there's a ton of that in entertainment right now, of
Yeah.
all the big social issues, whether it's climate change or all the things, and it's so hopeless. Well, what's the point then? Why would I try to change? Why would I try to make this world bigger or my relationships better? Or so, yeah, I read lots and lots of great plays that do not have hope, and I have to say, no, that's not our story. Um,
Right. How important is that to be anchored and continually making that the foundation and making sure you're connected to your foundation? It's
yeah,
really important for you.
and
And how much does your message, like how much has your audience actually influenced your message?
yeah, I think they have come along on the journey.
Hmm.
So here's the, all the artistic directors in everywhere, to be clear, are have this, what is it? Do we do what the audience wants?
Hmm.
Because here, what the audience wants? Mamma Mia and The Sound of Music. And if we're clear, that's actually
Yeah,
what the general population wants, ABBA. And
I
so much
can't disagree with you. Yes, I would say.
it is the saccharine sweet. Isn't this just fun? If if you ask, they just want to be entertained. They have a
Hmm.
hard life. They get it. They want to sing a little ditty. That's why Broadway across Canada is huge. Yes, I'm not against entertaining people. That is a part of the craft of storytelling, to do it so well that people are fully engaged. But I think I have brought my audience on this little journey to say, of course, I will always try to entertain you. I hope you will laugh. I hope you will cry, but I will educate you. And so it took a while for sure of like, yeah, we're going to drop in, 10 years in, where I'm like, oh, we're going to do a really hard show about abortion. We're going to do a really hard show about abuse, addiction. Uh, and I started to sort of pepper our stories with that. And look, honestly, we lost some people for sure. We lost some lovely, probably a little more conservative church going folks who maybe thought we were going to do, Bible stories. And to be clear again, I don't know if you've read the Bible, little risky. So, but I think they thought we were going to do like children's theater. I can bring my 8-year
Right.
old. It's like, no, that's actually not what we're doing.
Yeah.
There's a place for that. That's not us. And so I think, and I have plays on my to-do list that are, I'm like, no, we're 5 years away from that. My audience isn't there
Interesting.
yet, right?
Hmm.
But they trust me. They've come on this thing of, I have conversations in the lobby after some hard shows, and they'll be like, Val, that was hard. I was offended, or I didn't like it, and I'll sit and talk with them and say, well, tell me what you were quote unquote offended by, and I'll tell you why I felt that was necessary. As a person who wants to talk about the light, I have to also show the dark in
Yeah.
some way. I don't want to be gratuitous about it. I don't want to glorify the dark. But to show the light being even brighter, I have to show the dark. And I try to navigate that. I don't do it always perfectly. There's lots of shows I have to pass by. But I'm interested in showing, when you talk about how to show up authentically,
Hmm.
what does that mean? As a person of faith, we tend to shy away from sometimes very hard things. We tend to shy away from, oh, we prayed, but the marriage still ended. Oh, we prayed, but they still died of cancer, or that, bad things are still happening in what
Yeah.
I still believe is a good world, uh, being led by a good God.
Yeah.
So
And
again,
it's life, right? I mean,
life.
you say this and I'm thinking these are actually what some of us, all of us at
Mhm.
some point or another go through and face.
Yes.
And what an just a brave space that you are creating for people to actually engage in these conversations. That's why this is so appealing. And not many have done it. And I think that's why this is such an interesting conversation, because you are truly following the path that you feel led to follow and have these conversations. Not everybody's wired for that, to lead this kind of initiative, but you are, and you're actually following it, and you're building this into into a conversation that I find so incredibly valuable.
I was hoping that God was going to download a Google Calendar that would just tell me, here's the next thing you do, and here's your next gig, and it's all laid out.
We're all
Uh,
waiting for that.
yeah, he did not, which was weird. Um, Here's what I needed to rest physically. Um, Again, to be still. I read, I walked, um, I just listened. And it was, I'm not finished this journey, obviously. I'm still the very beginning of the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Of like every day, I'm trying to build new routines.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, God's like, just do the next thing. Don't worry about, yeah, I know you got a season plan and I know you got budgets but what do you, like, just do the next thing. Like, I'll probably take this dog for a walk, in half an hour or whatever. It's like, that's the next thing. And after that, well, I'm gonna go see my mom. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and being
Well,
trusting the next thing, and he knows the thing,
and sometimes he speaks to us, at least I'm, from personal experience, in interesting and unorthodox ways. I know for you, I have to mention when you told me that you found, being the ocean girl that you found these two little shells on a rock, tiny little shells that were sitting on a rock in the middle of a desert.
yeah,
They don't belong there,
right.
naturally speaking.
No.
Did that just kind of inspire you and maybe just give you that little bit of, okay, all right, we're on the right track here?
Like you said, I'm an ocean girl. That's where I go to be happy, where I go to grieve, to process. But for whatever reason, um, in January, when I sort of had made the decision to start this next little bit of my life, and again, it might have been the shortbread talking, I don't know. I feel like you should go to the desert. I don't, okay. I go to the desert, and it was lovely and beautiful. And yeah, my like second last day there, I'm on this beautiful creek, and there's like, first of all, there's like the most beautiful sand. It's like a little beach. Again, I'm like, what
Wow.
am I in this? And I'm just hanging out. I'm heading back to sort of my last day, and I look down and there's these itty bitty little shells, which didn't really register right away. And then I'm like, how far am I from the ocean right now? Like, I'm legitimately hundreds and hundreds of miles from the nearest. And I pick up, look, it was a national park. Nobody needs to know. I took the shells. It was like an FBI investigation.
Shell police,
I
yes.
can't believe if the national parks of the US, I don't know. And I don't know what that was. It was like, God, like, thank you for obeying me and coming to the desert. And here's a little bit of ocean. I hear you. I see you. It was an I see you. That's all, of like, hey, I see you. Here's some little reminder of like, I'm with you. We got this.
If you're stepping into a new season in your life and you feel like there's something more for you to do, I want to encourage you today. I hope Val's story has inspired you. And no matter what your story is, I really believe you can find what you've been created to do at any age or stage. Thank you so much, Val Lieske. Go to fireexit.ca to find out more about her theater company and even opportunities to support her vision. Thanks for tuning in.